Today I'm here with a special guest. We have Yam Lau.
For the average student at UofT, where you're like, you're probably taking 5 courses, and obviously since UofT, it's like a really hard school to study in for the most part compared to other universities in general. I think with regards to that, that's where, time management is really key. I essentially kind of changed my physique from like as being extremely skinny to like a bit better.
I find it that a lot of the times the power of your argument can also be determined by the power of your character. If we're about to fight and he starts taking off his pants, I'm running.
That's definitely been really true to me.
People will complain about Canada or the US having whatever level of emissions and they'll call for change. But then as soon as there is change, those companies, those businesses will just move their production to a different country. It's going into the same earth. It's going into the same climate. I don't know why people are suddenly okay when it's different places around the world that are polluting. Why are you going to go work that 9 to 5 to come home and do what? Like sit on your couch and watch Netflix?
When it comes to like, working a job that you might not like the most, as in obviously 9 to 5, it's kind of intimidating to think of, especially as university students who've never worked before, right? Yeah, sure, it's painful at the very beginning, but hey, you get maybe you get promoted at some point. That's where you start getting like your better pay, or let's say, as you grow older, that's when you gain more experience from say working in different jobs. So I at the very least know what I'm doing right now, right, compared to like being a fresh undergraduate, for example.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I'm here with a special guest. We have Yam Lau. When I was reading over your application there, because we were trying to get you on in last year, sorry.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah. And I think that the first thing that caught my eye was that you're a very diversified person, which I respect a lot. A very differentiated person. You have a lot of different things that you do. It's not just I'm a school guy. It's not just I study all the time, right? Like you're a runner. You play the cello. You played the cello for a long time. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll dive into all of that. But that's the main thing that I really liked and why I wanted to have you on, just to kind of talk about how you manage so many different things coming into UofT.
Because I guess the thing about when it comes to managing all these different hobbies together, like you said, say I do running quite a lot, maybe like 4 times a week, or I play the cello and I'm in like different ensembles. I think the main thing that really comes down is time management, since let's say for the average student at UofT, where you're like, you're probably taking 5 courses, and obviously since UofT, it's like a really hard school to study in for the most part compared to other universities in general. I feel like, because I think with regards to that, that's where time management is really key. As a let's say every day, okay, you have like 8 hours gone from like sleeping or rest or whatever. So the remaining 16. Wait, no, I can't math. Like 14
60, yeah.
Wait, no. Okay, let's say 14 hours. So that's where it really comes to. Okay, so how much time am I going to allocate to studying, or like how much time am I going to allocate to doing anything else that's just not related to academics? So be it like let's say be it partying, or just doing whatever you like. So like let's say for me, like sports, for example.
Yeah.
Although like, obviously it definitely differs like, based on like I guess what kind of person you're or like what you're studying. So let's say I'm in chemistry, which I don't think it's like a really popular choice here, like when it comes to programs. But let's say with regards to that, let's say when you have maybe like 9 hours of labs every week, which is obviously quite a lot of time. That's where, let's say it's definitely like a huge strain when it comes to like your daily schedules on, let's say, oh wow, I have a 5-hour lab, a 4-hour lab every day. So that takes away a good amount of my time. But again, like it just really comes back down to, now that you know that that's a thing in your like you in one day, for example. So it all comes down to, like how am I going to manage it? Like how much time am I going to spend on each?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think that if most people sat down, got a pen and paper, and planned out their week and thought, okay, how much time, if I had my dream life, how much time would I allocate to each of these things? And sleep, once again, sleep's an interesting thing to talk about.
It is, yeah, because I guess the sleep, it's like, there's people who are like, I need to sleep 10 hours a day or I'm not going to make it. And then there's the other side where it's like, I can sleep in like maybe 3 hours, get like 5 episodes of robots or something, for example, and that's completely fine.
And the younger you are, the more important sleep is for sure. Like in high school, you definitely need more sleep, I'd say. High school age. We're definitely in that demographic that probably needs more sleep, right? Like the older you get, the less sleep you need, just because I think you're using less energy in your day-to-day life, right? Like that's fly here.
Oh, okay.
I've been having a problem recently. I've killed like about 3 in the past week, just clapping them. But anyways, that's a sidetrack. Sleep, yeah, it's interesting. How much sleep do you think is ideal for a university student? At U of T.
At UofT, okay, specifically, got you.
At U of T, how much sleep do you think is ideal?
Because the thing, again, it kind of really depends on your program, right? Like, let's say you have engineers where, there's like this, how do I put it? It's like, how the common stereotype is, they get bombarded by work a lot. Let's say you have, like, I don't know, like 7 courses. I don't know how it's possible. Like, personally, I would say, like, 7 to 8 is like normally like the amount that I would like to go for, as in, it might not be the most, but it's definitely like, as in, if it's enough sleep that I can get one day like just going, like, for the most part, without kind of crashing in the middle. I think that's the important part. Although again, because I guess when it comes to like determining how much sleep you want to have, it really comes down to like you mentioned, like, what's your daily schedule like, or like how much work you have to like do you need, for example. So it's like, like there's. So every now and then, like, for me, I would get bombarded by, like, say, having 3 lab reports, like, doing 1 a week, which is obviously a lot of work. So in those cases, that's where I'd say, I'm definitely going to be sacrificing some time when it comes to, like, rest, for example, since, well, work takes priority, obviously. So, like, let's say in those cases, I would say maybe 5 to 6. Like, obviously it's not great, but you do have to remember the fact that, once you're done with all your assignments, deadlines, whatsoever, that's where it really makes up when it comes to like resting afterwards. But I guess like I'm kind of like sidetracking, but anyway, I guess it really comes down to like what your schedule is like, and like maybe if you're a bit busy, you might have to sacrifice some of that time, which you will get back eventually. And like I said, like I mentioned earlier, it comes down to time management. But I think generally speaking, 6 to 8 is a good mark to go for. Like,
absolutely.
If you're like an average person like me, for example.
Yeah. I've been aiming for 8 hours. It's tough. It's tough at UofT, It's like, yes, this extra time of rest is going to make me more productive tomorrow, but, sometimes you get in a crunch and you're like, I have to work on this tonight, and you push things off. It's just interesting how the priorities, they align.
Because I think the other thing about work is that, like, it's one thing that when people say, let's say, oh, I'm going to be so productive, I'm going to study 6 to 8 hours a day, which never happens, obviously. Like, because obviously the other factor is procrastination, right? Where it's like, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone that's been there at this point, especially for me as like a third year, where, I mean, obviously I am the kind of person who procrastinates a lot. So, it's one thing that you'd say to me, wow, like, how are you able to manage, like, say, I don't know, like various amounts of like extracurriculars and studies at the same time. It really comes down to cramming a lot, which is not a good idea at all. But that's not
100%. That's true. Do you think that some students might have a hard time with procrastination because they feel like they're not working on anything very important and they're not like too passionate about it? Because I feel like when you really care about something and you put in your heart and soul into it, procrastination is never a problem. I feel like
absolutely.
It's only when it becomes an obligation that you don't see the importance of. Do you think that could be a reason? Like, do you think that a lot of students, because procrastination is a big thing, like a lot of students struggle with it. Do you think the base of that is that students really just have no interest or investment into what they're learning?
Because I think like, about what you said, I think that's, that's definitely been really true to me. Because like, let's say, obviously, it's one thing that I have to put in a lot of attention on academics, for example. But even on that, I think, because personally for me, like, chemistry is one of those things where I'm like, it's not like the thing that I like the most. Like,
it doesn't get you going out of bed? You don't wake up like excited to read the periodic table?
Definitely, okay, firstly, I don't think anyone would be doing that. That's kind of cringe. But I think because when it comes, because I guess when it really comes down to, let's say someone's asking you, oh, hey, like, what's your program, or like, why do you choose your program, for example? Like, I think I think when it comes to responses, it's either because that is what I've been looking forward to since grade 8 in high school, for example. It's either that or, oh, that's like my best grade in high school, or like I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I think that's just kind of like the like the intuitive pick,
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's definitely more of the latter. So I guess back to your question on, since I know that, okay, again, I do have to clarify that it's not that I don't like chemistry at all. It's like, I definitely do like it, like, quite a lot, but it's just that it's not really the thing that gets me going every day. As in, I'm not the person who's like, yes, I have a 5-hour left to go. It's gonna be so exciting. I can make like this random compound. I like never see it again. Like, for example. But, But yeah, I guess when it comes to that, yeah, it's definitely like a huge factor. Let's say when it comes to knowing that that's something that you have to do, but you're not either entirely passionate about it, or it's like let's say there's 2 weeks before an assignment is due. That's where you're like, it's technically nice to start things early, but I have 2 weeks, which is a lot of time. But as you fly by, let's say 13 days without doing anything, I think that's like what most people have done so far. It happens.
100%. What's your favorite element?
Oh dear God. Yeah, see, I think the thing is, when you're asking every other chemist, I think they would probably give you like a really straight answer, which I don't. Man. Honestly, I'm kind of like an organic and I guess inorganic chemistry guy. I would say probably carbon. I know that's like a very basic answer since
Carbon.
It's like, I know it's
Right
like
when the people are freaking out about the carbon in the environment. You know what I mean?
I know that's one thing. Obviously, it's carbon monoxide, which is awful. Which I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
But
I saw a thing the other day in the EU. They're trying to roll out. I don't know if this is like a plan or if this is going into action soon or if this is just an idea. I have no idea. I heard that they're trying to set something into place called carbon credits, where everyone's going to be assigned a certain amount of carbon credits. This is just like to protect the environment is their reason. And they will be assigned, once again, everyone will have their amount, but you'll also be able to trade them and sell them. So someone who, let's say, is really rich, who wants to go and fly on a jet, can buy carbon credits from someone who wouldn't be able to afford to fly. So you have this marketplace of carbon and being able to use these natural gases. To me, that sounds crazy as shit. You know what I mean? I mean, just to roll off your favorite element, but like, what do you think about that? Do you think much about like this type of climate environment stuff that's going on with these regulations? Like, it seems interesting. It seems a little crazy though, this type of regulation.
I mean, not gonna lie, like when you mentioned credit, the first thing that I thought of was like social credits, which it's definitely not related, but it's just kind of like a funny thought. But because I think the thing about, let's say, putting on the regulations, like you said, like you have the EU supposedly implementing a plan on carbon credits. Like what I'll say is, obviously it's 2023. We live in a time where you have people being more aware to the climate. Let's say what problems that we face every day. I don't think it's because again, like I'm not really the most aware person when it comes to say climate change or just climate problems in general. But I think when it comes to people being aware at the very minimum of like, oh hey, like what's going on, like say like we're very clearly getting shafted by like rising temperatures like nowadays where it's a bit slow. It's not like a super urgent problem, I'd say, but again, like I guess like back to my point as it's definitely a good thing where you have more and more people getting aware in the 21st century on say climate change, for example. So like when you're implementing those plans like the like carbon credit thing that you mentioned, that's like it's a good thing on paper because okay, I don't know whether I'm really getting off topic, but I think when it comes to implementation of those plans, like it's one thing to have an idea like say carbon credits or like reducing emissions where it's like like if everyone can be on the same page and we can just do that thing and hopefully get our emissions down in like I don't know 10 years for example, that's one thing. But obviously implementation of these things like these plans is a completely different story, right?
Yeah.
So again, I guess like let's say going back to the carbon credit thing, which again I've said it like multiple times on how I'm not like the most aware person when it comes to these issues. But when it comes to these plans, I think the main thing that people are sort of like not paying attention or like maybe sidetracking on is, like it's one thing that you have to implement these plans, but you have to realize that it impacts differently depending on like who it's affecting, for example, right? So let's say
I hear you.
If you're implementing these, like let's say maybe like a more developed country, like I don't know, like UK, France, for example, that's where you're like, okay, those countries, the chances are you probably have the resources to do so, and even if you were to to implement these changes, since obviously regardless of what you're going to introduce, it's going to be a change in everyone's lifestyle, right? Since everyone or like most people are affected. But back to my point, as in, let's say if you're doing these in like more developed countries where they have the necessary resources or the mindset to adapt, for example, then I mean it probably works. Maybe not as best. Maybe not as great as what you'd think, but yeah, you definitely be getting some results, absolutely. But because on the other hand, let's say if you're implementing a climate plan, I don't really know a specific one, but just in general, let's say you're implementing it on a developing country, like let's say maybe some places in Africa, like I think in those cases that's where I think it's pretty clear that since those countries they're not doing great economically or just when it comes to like poverty being an issue, for example.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the best way to phrase it, as in
Even that though, like when you move these things around the world, it's the same climate. Like people will complain about Canada or the US having whatever level of emissions and they'll call for change. But then as soon as there is change, those companies, those businesses will just move their production to a different country. It's going into the same earth. It's going into the same climate. I don't know why people are suddenly okay when it's different places around the world that are polluting.
Yeah, I guess regarding that point, I guess it really comes down to like how aware you are, or let's say which countries are like fully willing to commit to like these plans, for example. So let's say, what's that agreement called? The Paris Peace, not Paris Peace, like the Paris Climate Agreement that was signed by Obama way back in, I don't know, 2015. So it's like let's say back in the day, that's where I think as a middle school student, I would be like, wow, it sounds like a great thing where you have, I don't know, like 200 something countries signing together and be like, yes, we are all willing to commit to like reduce emissions, blah blah blah. Which, like I mentioned, it's one thing that you have a plan, but again, it really comes down to like A, whether you're willing to commit to it, or B, how, or if you're gonna implement it, like how it's gonna affect on other people. So let's say, fast forward to 2023. Obviously, yeah, Trump withdrawing the U.S. from that plan, which is not great. I don't want to get too political, but it's like, let's say, yeah. So back to that plan, let's say you have countries like the U.S. being like, yeah, we are definitely going to commit. But on the other hand, you have countries like China, for example, where they're like, yeah, I know that we're technically in the agreement, but we're not going to do anything. So it's like, why would I care?
Right. Yeah, no, it's...
So hence it really comes down to like the effort of like, like whether you're really going to commit. And I guess like back to my earlier point on like how it affects like different people when you introduce these plans, for example.
Absolutely. I do want to ask you more about your running club. UofT, is that your club? It's a club you're in, yeah?
It is a club, yeah.
So running sucks. I do it sometimes. I hate doing it. It's good for you. When I say it sucks, I don't mean like anyone who like I respect runners. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I go to the gym. I like working out. I like getting strong. But when I walk around to class and I walk around Queen's Park, I see these guys running. I do not want to be them. So anytime I run, I think running is harder than working out. It's really difficult. So for me, because my cardio is not there, and I respect the hell out of runners because it's a difficult thing to do. You run. You run a lot. You run marathons? I saw a picture on your account.
Okay, definitely not marathons. That's way too far.
Not marathons. You're in a race. I saw a picture on your account. You were in some race. What was that?
Oh, so I guess the marathon that's in my account. So basically in Toronto, so every year there's two major races that's held in the city when it comes to like longer distances, like let's say a marathon or half marathon. So essentially there's two races every year. So the one in May, which was the one that I did run in, that was the Toronto Marathon, which normally has a smaller crowd of people. Then there's also another one in October, which was pretty recent actually. So there's another race called the Toronto Waterford Marathon, where it's like a global level event, I believe. It's definitely much more popular than the one in May.
Yeah.
But for the most part, these are the two events which are the most popular for runners in Toronto.
Yeah. And what got you into running? What started you into that?
Well,
first it was now you're in UofT, you're doing cello, and you're like, I might as well run.
Wow. It still kind of boggles me to this day on like say, wow, it's been like 6 years and wow, look at where I've been now, like compared to, I don't know, as a vegetable. But yeah, I guess on that, because I think it was back in grade 9 where, back then I was, quite literally a vegetable. Or maybe not vegetable, but just like someone who's, I don't want to be offensive, but like, just someone who's not great in anything. I couldn't do any kind of ball sports. I can't play football. I can't do basketball.
Yeah.
I can't really do volleyball either, for example.
What about hockey?
Oh, hockey. I mean, the thing with hockey in Hong Kong is that it's just not really a popular sport.
That's fair.
Yeah, but anyway, so back then I was like, hey, if I'm basically not good in any kind of sport, I might as well try something out maybe. So I guess kind of thought of running back then, since it's like, yeah, you have two legs, you're just kind of like moving them really quickly for like, I don't know, so like maybe a short period of time. So back then I was like, hey, like how hard can it be? I'm literally just running for like, I don't know, like 5 minutes or so. And I guess onto that, there's a great reason why you have a lot of people either dogging and running, or maybe there's a good reason why you probably don't like running. As in, if you're starting it wrongly, that's obviously going to ruin your entire thought on something, for example, right? So,
Right.
I guess back to me, I've been to the mistake for like most early runners where it's let's say you're going way too fast for like your very first time running, for example, and you're like, wow, this is god awful. I feel so tired after 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not, but I guess for me, I don't know, like I just had this really weird sense of perseverance where I was like, I guess maybe it's different for me in that sense. Like you mentioned, I was really bad in sports back then. So back then I thought, yeah, I know that I suck, but I think it's something that I can definitely build up like slowly, gradually, maybe. So yeah, so I guess with that, I fast forward to 6 years here. I am kind of just enjoying life while
Nice.
doing that.
Nice. Respect. Do you have like a before and after comparison picture of like the shape you were in, your fitness? So we got like vegetable Yam. Your name's literally Yam.
I know. So it's like, when you're quite literally a vegetable.
Yeah.
Like physically.
Yam, and now you're just, what is it?
Well,
Yam Monster. Your new nickname, Yam Monster.
That's like, I think that would be more suitable if I was like a gym bro, but like I don't think it's happening. But
Yeah.
honestly, about photos, I think I do have a photo, but I have to find it since that's like, wow, I think 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So basically, I have a photo of me before I started just doing any sports or running, for example, where basically I think up until grade 10 I was very underweight. So like very underweight. So that's like back then I was maybe 175, but I was I think 48 kilograms, 49. So basically very
Yeah. How tall are you?
poorly. Right now I'm 6 foot.
6 foot. Nice.
Yeah. But
Every man's dream.
basically, I mean, maybe
Basically.
not in terms of physique, where I'm like, yeah, I'm not the most satisfied with the work. But anyway, as in, because I guess when it comes to like me kind of going to like where I am right now when it comes to physique, like obviously it's one thing that I run, but because obviously the thing about running is that it doesn't increase muscle mass, obviously, since that's more on like training your strength, which I don't know much about, to be like honestly speaking, but. Because I think back then, besides, I guess, kind of running on the side, I would also, that's, because I remember for 1 year, I think grade 10 to 11, that's why it's like, yeah, I'm going to commit myself to like doing maybe 100 push-ups a day, like not in one go, obviously, but like just in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know why that thought came, but I'm really happy that it came out. So that's, then I sort of forced myself to eat more, where basically I kind of forced myself to say, oh, I'm going to eat 2 bowls of rice daily, because why not? And so, yeah, so I guess from that, I essentially kind of changed my physique from like as being extremely skinny to like, I guess like I'm still skinny, obviously, but a bit better.
Yeah, no, you're not looking like a twig, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. How has it changed like your confidence levels overall, right? Because, I mean, did your parents like really prioritize school when you were younger, like making sure you got the good grades, making sure you're smart? Like, is that?
I think that's like the quintessential Chinese family stereotype.
Yeah,
right?
is that like the priority there?
I think for me it was a bit different since actually, but I remember back in middle school, I think maybe up until grade 9, my grades were actually like really horrible. So
Oh wow.
yeah, obviously my parents, they had the same thought as like most Chinese families out there, I'm pretty sure, where they're like, son, I want you to like, be at the best grades, become a doctor or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think by grade 8-ish, so that was when I wasn't doing the best like in terms of like academically. So I think that's when they kind of changed to. Yeah, I think from that point that we know that you're not the best in studying for that period at least. So I think it's more important on say just identifying what you like the most and sort of sticking to it like over time.
Yeah.
Although obviously back in grade 8, I didn't really know what I was doing for the most part since I was it's like when your grades are really bad. Since it's like when you're failing your main job, then that's why I'm like, yeah, maybe I really shouldn't be focusing on anything else if I'm like doing badly in grades.
Got it.
Like, for example.
It's just interesting how the different like cultures work. I feel like here you can get confidence from a lot of things. I think physique is definitely one of those things. Being in shape, that can definitely give you a lot of confidence. Being smart definitely could give you a lot of confidence. Being in a good school. I don't know if that gives as much confidence as physique though. That's why I asked you, because you're from Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
You're from Hong Kong. The culture, I don't know if the culture is any different. I feel like definitely in Canada, if you ask majority of people out there what makes them more confident, their physique or their intelligence, let's say like just if you did a scope on the most confident people, would it be because they're really smart people or because they're really like good shape, strong?
So I mean, one of those things. So obviously, that's like you can kind of treat it like a Venn diagram, I suppose. So it's like, let's say on one hand, that's like people who are extremely smart, maybe not the best in terms of physique. Then the other hand, it's like you probably have like pretty good intelligence, or like I guess at least average, but like you have really good physique, for example. So be like, I don't know, like bodybuilders, like fitness influencers, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
What I would say is that, okay, I don't exactly know the demographic of Hong Kong, but I think what I can say in general is that, you know, back to the Venn diagram thing, where obviously there's the middle thing where it's like, let's say you're really smart and you're both fit, for example. I think that's obviously the golden point that most people probably strive to be in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, because I think the thing about physique is that, I will say though, I don't really like going to public gyms, so like let's say being the AC or even Hato sounds like to a certain extent. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I know that I'm really.
What's the reason?
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, it's like what you mentioned about physique. Honestly, even up until now, I still get a bit intimidated. It's like, let's say you're kind of doing your own workouts, be like, I don't know, like bicep curls or whatever. I'm just not the gym guy. Then you see like people who are deadlifting like huge weights, for example, or being massively fit or like just bulk. I'm like,
everyone's got to start somewhere though. I bet
that is true.
I bet those big guys were nervous their first day too.
Yeah, that is true. But I think for me, it's one thing that I have to remind myself that it's obviously if I have to if I want to have better physique, I have to like put in the effort, right? Which hasn't really happened with regards to strength, obviously.
Right.
But, on the other hand, that's where I like to think, it's one thing that I don't have the best physique out there, but if I can specialize in like what I do, so like as in, am I the best runner out there? No, I can't even do a sub 20 5K, for example. But as in,
what, sorry?
Like as in, because I think for runners is that I think it's a very popular goal for most people, like for people who've been running for quite a while, to go for say a sub 20 minute 5K. So
what is that?
Oh, so basically 5K is like 5 kilometers.
Yeah, 5 kilometers.
As in, I think it's a pretty popular goal for people to try going for below 20 minutes.
Below training.
Below 20 minutes for like your time.
For I see.
Because
20 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah. Because I think the thing about North America, at the very least, is that let's say when you're talking about cross country teams, be it in like university or even high school, honestly, like I remember seeing on YouTube where you had, I think, maybe 14-year-old kids running 70 minutes, 60 minutes maybe, which is obviously very insane. That's like basically the top 1% of runners.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was like, that's crazy. I'm literally like nowhere. I'm like maybe half the time with them, like maybe back when I started. So that's not. But again, like so, obviously it really comes down to like how much work you're gonna put into, for example.
100%. So speaking about what you're putting stuff into, your future, your career.
Oh, dear
so
God.
you're taking biology, chemistry,
biological chemistry.
Biological chemistry. My apologies.
It's fine.
And are you passionate about it? We were talking earlier about chemistry. Like, are you excited? Like, what is this program leading you to?
Because I think, okay, what I'll say about chemistry, okay, not even about biological chemistry, as chemistry in general, is that I think, because I guess, like, generally speaking, I believe chemistry is one of those disciplines where it's like, it's one thing that you have a chemistry degree, but it's like a pretty flexible subject, and in fact, it does apply to like a large variety of areas, like be it, say, research, which I think it's like a no-brainer when it comes to like correlations, but there's also say like biotechnology, which I think it's like a growing field like in the 21st century. Then be like food research, environmental chemistry, even, for example. So as in, like chemistry is definitely like a pretty diverse field that you can apply to and all. But for me, so remember how I mentioned earlier that going in, obviously it's not like my favorite thing like in my life right now. As in, obviously I prefer playing music or like running, for example. So honestly, when it comes to the future, what I'll say is that since I I think I sound really horrible in that. Yeah, I know that I'm already in third year and I still have like literally no plans on like what I'm gonna do. Being, am I gonna go for like a master's or like am I gonna just go for work like straight after? But what I would say about like my views, about like for having a future life is that obviously it could be the person where let's say it could be the person who wants to say, I don't know, maybe earn like a 6-figure salary, retire at 40, and then be settled for like your remaining 50 years or so. But I think for me, what's more important is that, obviously, if you having both fields controlled, be it like your career and your personal hobbies, for example, then that's obviously the best. But what I'll say is that I think, especially for me, since I'm not in the subject that I'm like, say, 100% committed, what I'll say is, it's one thing that you're working in something, for example, let's say, but I think what's more important is that, let's say, the job that you're in, if it's sufficient enough for you to, let's say, support your living, or like maybe in 10 years when you have a family, for example, but at the same time, if you're earning enough money for you to continue pursuing your personal interests, so like, let's say, again, back to me, be it in music or like sports, for example, that I think that's like, I think for me, I'd say that's a pretty good life. As in, yeah, I know that you're losing in the. I guess you kind of, you're losing in the job factor where it's like, yeah, let's say I'm working in something that I at the very least enjoy to a certain extent, but it's not my absolute favorite. But on the other hand, I'm essentially gaining on, say, doing the things that I genuinely love, like outside of my work. So like, let's say, being with my future family, or like being able to just kind of play in large groups of ensembles with like other people, or like being able to run, for example.
Very cool.
Yeah.
A saying that I like to use every now and again is everything is everything. And that basically means that something that I find really interesting about school is that people select themselves into these different programs, but and every single program will claim that their field is what makes the world of what it is. So like mathematicians will say everything is math.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a world without math. If we look at this chair has dimensions. It's 2 feet tall, 1 foot, 2 feet tall, 18 inches wide, whatever it is. Okay. So they'll say everything's math. And then the artist will say everything's art. Look at this beautiful purple couch. Mm-hmm. And it's got the nice texture on it. You can feel it, all that. Artists will say everything's art. And then English majors will say everything's English. Everything's language. Everything's a language, right? The couch is a couch. You're using the word to describe it. You're speaking about the couch. When you say everything is everything, you're speaking in a language. And then the scientists will say everything's science. It's made up of matter. It's made up of particles. There would be no couch if you didn't have science. There'd be no particles. So either way, the point of this is that everything is everything. I think that it's interesting how people will claim that their field of study or their field of work is the most important in the world, when really I don't think that the world would be able to exist if there weren't the proper, the proper resources being allocated to each field. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I talked about in another podcast about how some jobs are very replaceable, right? You can definitely lose some jobs, but at the same time, where there's demand, there's demand. So whether or not, my argument is that whether or not it benefited survival, there's still demand. So like if Mr. Beast disappeared from the world, I don't think a lot of people would be dying. I mean, he is saving a lot of people with the money, but like just as an example, if a lot of YouTubers just passed away, or if the YouTube app closed down, TikTok closed, right? If they just shut down the app.
Honestly, that would not be a bad thing at all for society, I think.
Oh, yeah, not at all.
It's not. Okay,
it would definitely benefit
YouTube
people.
is debatable, but TikTok, honestly, yeah.
Get rid of TikTok.
Get rid of TikTok, that's awful.
But yeah, the point is that even though they're not upholding the survival of society, there's still a demand for it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The artist that paints pictures, yeah, sure, maybe they're not feeding people or they're not protecting people, but their art is still benefiting the world in the sense that people will pay money to have that art. And it's interesting. It's interesting. So everything could be chemistry as well.
I mean, like, I think what I'll say is that, I guess back to your claim on, let's say, people claim, let's say you have someone claim that, English is the most important in like globally, or like, let's say science is the most important. But at the end of the day, I think what you really have to realize is that, let's say, globally, there's like 7 billion people, I believe. Like, point is a lot of people, as in, you can't expect everyone to be in the same field as you, right? As in, let's say, if there's 7, like, I don't know, like 1 billion people in chemistry, I just don't think that's possible. That's like a very weird number to think about.
Right.
But yeah, I guess like I guess back to what you've said on how it's one thing that you have everyone claiming that whatever they're doing in life is the most important, but you have to remember that, like I mentioned, it's 7 billion people, or like let's say, point is a lot of people in one country, for example, right? Where obviously the reason that, let's say, you're able to bring your chemistry in prominence, or like yourself in prominence even, is that it's because of the total amount of effort that you're putting in from like the different fields combined together. As in, let's say there's a society where it's one thing, maybe we are like extremely stacked in science, but like let's say we have like literally no creativity in like the arts or languages, for example. So at the end, what that means, let's say for that, it's like, we're probably like very technologically advanced to all, but we can't really communicate to one another, so that's kind of useless, right?
Yeah.
As in, you have to bring all your ideas to like other people, right? Like, I think that's a very extreme example, but like,
No, absolutely. I agree.
definitely applies.
There's so many different angles. I love using the couch example. Like the political science major could say this couch is politics because it's a product of capitalism, and without capitalism, you wouldn't have the couch. The finance major will say the world is finance, the world is money, because you wouldn't have the couch if you didn't pay for it. Mm-hmm. There's so many different things. And another thing I'd like to tie into it is that when you're trying to convince somebody that your field is the most important field, I find it that a lot of the times the power of your argument can also be determined by the power of your character. So
no, absolutely.
Let's go beyond this couch, okay? This couch for now. Yep. If the way I thought of it when I was younger is that I was very anti-drinking. I still am. Like, I'm not anti-drinking, but I don't drink, right?
No, that's understandable, yeah.
I don't drink, and then I don't smoke either. And when I was younger, there was a lot of pressure for that, right? Like, a lot of the friends in my school would be big on drinking, big on smoking. And
wait, like in high school, right? In
high school.
Okay. I thought if you're going to say middle school or something, I'd be like, wow, that's really messed up.
Yeah, no. But even nowadays, actually, is that there's a lot of kids that who are like 10 years old vaping. You know what I mean? It's
that's
just
crazy.
It's a completely different world. But I think that when I was younger, I wasn't really much of a strong character, if you want to put it that way, right? Like, if I had to get into an argument with the athlete of the school, who's my boy, shout out to Andy, right? If me and Andy were arguing, let's say he thinks that drinking is cool. This was not what he said. This is just, let's say we got in an argument as an example. Let's say he says, nah, drinking's awesome. Why don't you drink, man? You should drink. How am I supposed to debate with him? Even if my idea might be correct, my character is not anything to aspire to. So if people were looking at this argument, here's Andy, amazing athlete, kid's super tall, handsome man, nice blonde hair. And there's me, who's not as tall. I'm not as good of an athlete.
No, you're definitely fine now.
You know what I mean?
You're fine.
So if people are comparing these ideas, they might not even be listening to the arguments being said, but they see Andy, who's a G, and he is, and think, I want to agree with that guy because whatever he thinks, because I want to be like him. Mm-hmm. However he thinks, I want to think because I want to be like him. He's something to aspire to. F this nerd. I don't want to be like Carter, right? Because
I think we've all been there.
You know what I mean?
We've all been there.
So I think that people have a duty and a responsibility. If they want their words to mean something, they actually have to be a person that other people respect and want to be like. Mm-hmm. So if I sit across the table from someone who is unimpressive in every way, even if their ideas and their logic are so sound and perfect and seamless, people might look at them and think, even if this guy's right, I don't want to think like him. I want to think like this guy because I want to have the life this guy has. What do you think about that?
Although, I think what I will say is that, obviously, I guess back to what we mentioned, when we kind of discussed earlier on how no one field can exist without having others simultaneously together. Yeah. Although I will say is that, let's say specializing in one field, it does give you some skills that you might not necessarily have with others, for example. So let's say maybe if you do business, or maybe if you're a politician, for example. So that's where yeah, chances are you're probably like a very charismatic person, since that's why you have to say do business with other people. Hence, you have to persuade them, or be it you have to like I guess win voters, or like I guess to like pass policy. Hence, you have to convince your your base or other politicians, for example. So I think that's one thing. As
Yeah.
in, but then on the other hand, let's say if you're in like more science based like me, for example, so I think that's what I'd say. That's where I have skills that people might not necessarily have. So like, let's say be it doing analysis, doing experiments, working in the lab, which chances are, let's say if you're more focused on like literature, we probably won't be doing that very obviously. Um, Although what I would say is that I think that's one thing, as in like, okay, it's definitely not the most important point. That's one, but I guess like what you mentioned about like, let's say when you had the anti person that you had to follow as a like middle school, high school,
Yeah. Same.
because I will say that I was definitely in the exact same boat. I guess that's one thing that I think children in general, since that's where your mind isn't as developed as say like as a fully grown adult, right? So that's why you're like, you're not really able to firmly establish your beliefs or like what your thoughts are, for example. So hence that's why you're the most vulnerable to like people influencing you, be it like the super cool guy who you think is God, or like I don't know, like the nerd in the corner who I don't know, like he might have convinced you somehow. Like obviously those are like two extremes, but I guess back to that because obviously, I think even up until high school on, so like, I was definitely known a popular kid. Like I think, because when it came to my grade back in high school, I think it was essentially divided into where you had half the guys be cool kids who would, I don't want to say cool kids, that sounds kind of cringe, but like point is, basically people who were extremely popular in school overall. People would go partying literally every weekend. Then,
Yeah.
then there's the other side of like let's say most of my friends were. Yeah, we don't really do those kind of stuff, but we're just like memers who I guess I don't know, like because how say sending Instagram reels to like other people as memes, it's like really popular nowadays, right? For guys at the very least, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I guess my point is I was definitely in the same boat. Like, okay, maybe not in high school, but I think especially back in elementary school when you have to combine, let's say, the vulnerability of children being unable to like fully think about themselves and being easily influenced. But let's say I'm pretty sure I was definitely in the worst boat than you. Like maybe like back in middle school, elementary school, even where like remember how I mentioned earlier that I was like very skinny in basically very skinny up until like maybe more recently. So let's say you have that factor. Very introverted, extremely quiet, very unwilling to talk to other people. I think these factors combined with one, maybe to being extremely vulnerable to like other people sort of dictating it on me, like what to do.
Right. And that's the thing, is that you seem like a smart enough guy, right? Biological chemistry, that shit's not easy. So
I guess so.
circling around to my point is that if you're like arguing with one of these cool kids, as you call them, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of these popular guys, one of these jocks who might be a dumbass, you're like, why do people agree with him? I am the genius. I just said exactly. I walked through why my point is correct, and this guy just whatever his stupid ass argument was. But if people you saw tended to side with him or agreed with him more, then that's my point about, is it the character? Is it the fact that because he's popular, people want to be like him? So they'll dumb themselves down. They'll agree with the idiot because they want to have those traits. They want to be whatever, the jock, popular.
Because I think, again, it kind of depends on like what context you're in. So like, let's say, maybe when you're like a younger kid where violence is essentially, okay, I don't know much about bullying, like, because like the only thing I've seen about bullying is, from Hollywood movies where you have like, I guess like bullies literally destroying, demolishing the shit of like, I guess like whoever that they're like kind of attacking on.
Yeah.
Since I think like back in, again, I'm pretty sure that definitely doesn't apply to like everyone back back when they were like younger, for example. But because the thing about confidence, right, is that you're just a very charismatic person. You can ease people into like speaking like or like into believing in you very easily, or you have the physical advantage where it's like, if you don't agree with me, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. So like you better
a threat,
just say threat, for example. But I think like the other thing is like you have to realize is that as an adult, I think probably like in 80% of the cases, unless if you're like in the hood or something, then maybe not. But as an adult, you are definitely mature enough to like at the very least come up with your own thoughts, or even if people don't agree with what you're saying, or the other way around. Let's say there's someone trying the best to like coerce me into like I don't know whether that's the right word, but as if you have someone expecting me to follow him because they have, let's say, be in extreme confidence, or like they're trying to intimidate me. I think what's more important is that it's like maybe you have to it's either A, standing ground, or like say you very well knowing that what you believe in it's correct, or maybe not 100% correct, but as in you firmly believe in like what you've always believed in for like the last 20 years, for example. So I think the more important thing is that it's one thing that people can try persuading you in like by whatever method, be it like physical intimidation or like just pure charisma. But if you at the very least have your own base of thoughts, it really means, in my opinion, that you're not the kind of person who's going to be easily swayed.
Yeah.
It's either that, or you can maybe even, I guess, like sort of kind of blend in. Like, the point of having conversations, I think nowadays is that obviously I don't agree with you like 100%, right? But there's definitely something that we could definitely scavenge together, for example.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's definitely harder as a child, since like you mentioned, like
especially as a kid. Yeah, that's the thing.
As a kid, it's definitely different, but I think that's just most people in general. As in, as you mature, you go into an adult, you start living by yourself. You can't fully depend on your parents, right? As a Ulu reverse card to your bullies. Yeah. That's where you realize that now that I'm living by myself, I'm basically vulnerable to everything or like anything. So I gotta know how to say take care of myself, protect myself, have my own thoughts, know what my morals and beliefs are, so that I can at the very least know what I'm doing for the most part without being intimidated by other people.
100%. And that's, once again, we can full circle. We were talking about physique earlier, physicality. I think that a good way to protect yourself from being intimidated is also by building up your strength, by being strong, so that jock can't come scare you with his size. If he knows that you're equally matched with him in terms of I won't be able to just push this guy down to the floor, he's as big as me, then maybe you're going to win that argument.
I just want to, kind of off topic, but so there's a very common joke that I like to make among my friends, as in, if you're going to physically intimidate me, I'm just going to run the fuck away from you. Like, what are you going to do? Like, chase me? But yeah, I mean, like, I guess it really comes back down to like what you said earlier, as in, as a person, your strengths, right? As in, obviously each person has like the weaknesses and the strengths. As in, I know that like I'm not the best in terms of strength, for example, but like there's technically, I mean, for the most part, there's no shame, which is kind of contradicting what I said earlier about me going to the gym. But
right.
For the most part, again, it's like sure, I might not have the best physique, but if I put in the effort in the future, I don't know like when, but if I do not, sure, I can definitely put in some effort and have some gains, for example. And two, knowing that I myself have my own unique traits or strengths, for example, that's why I'd be like, yeah, I know. I guess it's one thing that you have like physique, but I have my own things that define who I am, right? Or like which makes me say maybe worse than you in some fields, but better than you in other fields. So technically, I think as adults, right, I think that's where you should definitely realize that, I shouldn't really be fearful of you, since I have my own things that makes me unique or separate from you, right? Let's say back to the physique thing, for example.
Right.
Although, don't get me wrong, it is definitely intimidating, as in, let's say if you have someone who's like a bodybuilder or like a total gym bro who literally marches right up into you and he's like, why are you so damn skinny? Like, get the fuck away from me, man. Obviously, first impressions are like important as well, as in, that's kind of important. But like I said, at the end of the day, as long as you know what defines you or like what your strengths and weaknesses are, well, learn what they are, know how to use them. I don't think exploits the right word, but like, you get the point.
I get it. Yeah, I get the point. That's awesome. It's a tough world out there.
It is, yeah.
It's a tough world.
It's like dog eat dog. I don't know whether that's still applicable, but
yeah. I heard a scary fight tip once. I've never been in a street fight before. Like,
I hope not. That would be questionable.
I've never been in a real street fight before. I'm not saying I want to. I think that there's a lot of dudes out there who are like really excited to get into their first street fight. I understand that. Like, I'm ready for one if one happens. You know
Hey,
what
good
I
for
mean?
you. You're not gonna get like be into complete shit unlike me.
Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to go out there and seek violence. I think that's kind of stupid. But I heard a scary fight tip once, and if someone uses this against me in my first street fight, I'm gonna be pissed. I saw a video, and it said the best way to win in a street fight, if someone comes up to you, is just to start taking your clothes off. What are you gonna do? Because the other guy's not gonna fight a naked man. If someone comes up to me, if we're about to fight, and he starts taking off his pants, I'm running. I'm not fighting a dude with no clothes. That shit's too much. So if that happens to me, that's the worst possible scenario for my street fight. Hopefully it doesn't happen.
I really hope not. I mean,
That would be a complete waste of going to the gym.
I
If
think
that's
that,
how
I think there's
lose.
two exceptions. It's either you're gay, which I'm not gonna get into that, or I don't know, maybe you're into that kind of kink. I don't know, man. Maybe there's probably like someone out there who's like into that kink for some reason.
Okay, fair.
I don't know.
Maybe there's a fighting style.
Maybe. I don't know.
Based on
It's
that.
not like the forbidden martial art that I've never heard for like 5,000 years. Is that why it's so forbidden?
Yeah, that's funny. Anyways, it's been a good conversation, Yam.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Is there any final thoughts you want to share with the people at home?
Yeah, I mean, chances are, if you see me right now, it's either you don't know. Well, I mean, chances are you probably don't know who I am, or you probably know who I am, but you're like,
Now you know who he is.
now
That's
you knew
for
it,
sure.
I guess. But I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I'd say what I'd say is, definitely find your own interests. And firstly, definitely identify like what you like. I think that's what's the most important when it comes to like defining a person. So, and once you know that, I mean, basically, for the most part, honestly, it's like once you identified what you like, what your interests are in, that's basically what's going to be sticking with you for the most part. And, well, obviously, time management is another thing. Or like, it's one thing that I have two different interests, but obviously, I have to like allocate time to like fulfill each one of them, right? So I think, honestly, but like I guess for the most part, just find what you really like to do in your life. And even if you find a shit job in the future, be like working at McDonald's, I don't know, man, maybe. You just have to, I think that's when you just have to remind yourself, yeah, I have a really dog shit job, but hey, at the very least, I have a family or that I can support, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe. That's
maybe.
hypothetically.
Right.
Or, hey, I at least have something that kind of counteracts that misery, as in, so like being, whether, so let's say for me, I really like playing in ensembles, like being symphony orchestras, string ensembles, string quartets, whatever, being, I've met a lot of amazing people along the way, and the fact that I'm sharing the same common interest with different people, that's awesome, obviously.
Because pain is inescapable.
Pain is inescapable.
I think the idea that people are trying to get away from pain and escape pain and their perfect life is a painless life is wrong. I think that's wrong. I think the better question to ask is, what is the pain for? If you're experiencing pain for a cause, I think that's ideal.
Because I think the other thing about pain is that, it doesn't have to be like physical pain, right? So like obviously, that's like, you do, like, let's say you do gym, right? Probably. So that, it's like, yeah, obviously starting out, that's where it hurts, like not hurt necessarily, but that's where
it's the hardest part.
Right?
It's the hardest
Yeah,
part.
exactly, but it's like no pain, no gain, right?
Yeah. No pain, no gain. Absolutely. That's true.
Like, I guess, okay, I'm kind of going off topic, but I guess my point is, in your life, definitely identify what your interests are in, and also find people who share the same common interests as you, so that, that's where you're basically, maybe not set for life, but like,
You need
pretty damn close to that.
You need a support group. You
Support
definitely
group,
need a support group.
yeah.
And this is why family is so important. Like, imagine having the worst job in the world. I think about this from time to time. A lot of people talk about this. The 9 to 5, the scary 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Like, people are trying to stay away from that lifestyle. They don't want to go into that life. And the matter of fact, the truth of the world is that that's what most people are living.
That's the average lifestyle for the most part.
That's the average life.
In fact, I'm pretty sure let's say in just East Asia in general, be it like Hong Kong, China, Japan, Korea, it's even worse. But I think the normal work hour is like 9 to 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It's even longer than that.
I wonder how the culture might be different there. Like, I don't know if 9 to 5 is as like demonized there, because like I feel like work is a little more respected in a way in Hong Kong and
I think
China.
to a certain extent, but I think the other thing about just East Asian culture, okay, maybe not in general, but at least for Hong Kong, is that, okay, so a minimum wage, you want to guess like what our minimum wage is?
In what? In USD or in yen?
Just Canadian.
In Canadian? Let me think.
Okay, it's definitely lower than here, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Minimum wage. I don't know, 4, 5?
Okay, not that low.
Okay.
Pretty close though.
What is it?
7.
7.
So that's like, so that's the amount of.
It's like less than half.
So that's basically like what you'd get from not even like working at like a fast food restaurant. That's like, when you're picking up trash on the streets, then sort of selling them. That's like the very minimum. Or it's like, say, being like a janitor, for example. Like that's what, okay, maybe I think that's a bit too extreme in that. I think in those scenarios, that's where you're like, yeah, maybe.
So a lot of people are living that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why, once again, that's why family's so important. There's people out here with no family. Why are you gonna go work that 9 to 5 to come home and do what? Like sit on your couch and watch Netflix? That's a painful life. Mm-hmm. That's pain without cause. Yeah. If you have pain with cause, if you're going to that 9 to 5 and you're busting your ass and it sucks, but you get to come home to your amazing wife and your beautiful kids. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Well, that's family.
Yeah, it's like, Dan, and I also want to add on as once that you're done, that's where you're like, man, I can finally practice on my like violin or cello, for example, right? Yeah. Like that's a plus as well, I'd say. Yeah. Right. But as in, like, again, like mentioned, like probably N times by now, as in, when it comes to like working a job that you might not like the most, as in, obviously 9 to 5, it's kind of intimidating to think of, especially as university students who've never worked before, right? Like, for example.
That's the thing, is that a lot of people in university, they think they're not going there.
But like, you have to accept that at the end, as in, it's life, you have to start somewhere. Like, yeah, sure, it's painful at the very beginning, but hey, you get promoted. Maybe you get promoted at some point where you get it's not maybe. But as in, if you do, that's where you start getting like your better pay, or let's say, as you grow older, that's when you gain more experience from say working in different jobs. So with that, that's where you're like, yeah, I at the very least know what I'm doing right now, right? Compared to like, say, being a fresh undergraduate, for example. Yeah. For sure. And that's the thing, university students think that just because they're at UofT, best school in the country, they're not going to be 9 to 5. No way. No. A lot of just because you get the degree doesn't get you out of that path. Absolutely not. You have to break yourself out of that path. I guess on that topic, so I guess like a pretty interesting story. So basically, my mother, right, so who works as like a banker. So basically she was I guess she was hosting interviews for like, I guess, internees back in Hong Kong, right, for a bank. So basically one of the people that she interned was from Oxford, actually. So where, if you're from Oxford, that's where you'd think, wow, I'm like literally in the best university in the globe. So I have to be set for the future, right? And I also have a really cracked resume, right? she got rejected by her, actually. Oh wow. Yeah. Yikes. But yeah, I guess my point is, it's one thing that you have an education, but that doesn't mean that it solves all your problems in the future, right? As in, like, you can't just expect that, since I'm in the top school, like Oxford, Cambridge, or UofT, for example, that's not the end of the world. That's not the same as, all my problems in life are basically settled. I can kind of do whatever the I want now. Yeah. What do you think about, like, sacrifice based on age? So when I say that, I mean, like, when we're how old are you? I'm 20. Yeah, same. 20. So as we're 20 years old, it makes more sense. Like, we can understand it a little bit more. Maybe I won't hang out with my friends, and maybe I won't call my parents tonight so I can grind on this work, whatever it is I have to do. And even on a longer time span, like, if you try to really prioritize work, like, to set up yourself in the future. That's what university is. That's what a lot of people are doing when they're in their 20s. They're really trying to work hard so that their life in their 30s and later is set, or 40s and later, whatever that time frame is. How do you feel about, like, sacrificing important things? Because, like, I think family is the most important. Absolutely, I think relationships are extremely important. But I also think that this is a very important time, crucial time to work hard and make sure that you build up your resource and your career and your work to be able to afford that life with your family, with your relationships, friends, all this type of stuff. So obviously I'd like to think in my 40s, family will be my number one priority. And that's where, understandable. That's where my energy will be. And I still feel like it should be now, but what do you think about that? Like, sacrificing family, relationships, friends, like these important things to work hard
and build up something so that they can come back in and reap those benefits.
Firstly, don't like actually sacrifice anything, like literally
Not
everything.
physically sacrifice.
No, not that. I mean, as in, like, obviously, don't actually sacrifice all your relationships for the sake of work, right? As in, the reason of like you having these people to like count on support. It's like you have people to support you whenever you're like down, for example.
Yeah.
Although what I would say is that there is like Chinese saying. I don't remember the exact word for it, but it's essentially the idea where, when you're younger, you have your parents basically kind of busting their ass for you, be like, so let's say for me, right, since both my mom and father were working since like me as a toddler, like up until now, that's the very reason why I'm able to have the life that I have right now. Say, being in university, enjoying my life in a different country, for example. So I think one important idea is that, since I was able to experience the best life that I've had because of my parents' hard work, I should at the very least be able to, get to a certain point where I can, sort of, besides supporting my own life or my family, I can also support my parents, right? Since they're the very reason that I'm here, for example, right?
Absolutely.
But obviously, the other thing is, right? Obviously, it's one thing that you want to get to that end point, but you can't just sacrifice it all. Sacrifice all the relationships that you've gone to up until this point, right? Which I will say that I've definitely done that a few times, and I feel really bad. Actually,
sorry to Yam's friends. Holy shit, voice crack.
No. Like,
sorry to Yam's friends.
No, I mean, like, again, like, I'm pretty sure everyone's been to that point where, like, a certain point where, when you feel extremely stressed, you're like, man, I have, like, 5 papers to write. I have to focus on that before I can, like, spend my time with my family. But the other thing you have to realize is that 24 hours, you have, again, let's say 8 hours gone to sleep. You have 14 hours, which is quite a lot of time, right? So, like, when you say that you're going to do it for like 14 hours, that's not going to happen, obviously. Like, be it in college or, like, working outside, for example, like, no, right?
Yeah.
So definitely at the very least, maybe spend like, I guess it's different for me since I'm like my family's in Hong Kong, right? But,
right.
Like, I think especially for people who are domestic students, which I really envy you guys in the fact that you still have your family with you. In that, sure. Let's say even if they're in like Vancouver, for example, which is like on the other side of Canada, but they're still in the same country. You only how much we envy those as like international students.
Yeah.
So, definitely spend some time with your family, friends. Don't be like a workaholic. Like, because I think even for me, like, well, obviously it's one thing that my family is like on the other side of the globe, but I'd still call them for like maybe 2 hours like every Saturday just to like catch up.
That's good.
Like, talk about life, how's work, how's my college life.
It's important.
How's my dating life, which is non-existent. Like, for example,
yeah. There's a saying that I really like, and it goes, "Every day you don't work is another day your parents have to." Which is true.
Oh God, yeah, it definitely happens.
It's completely true.
Like, the thing about, like, let's say if you're having different hobbies to start, so okay, it's like, it's one thing that I'm putting a lot of time to like what I like, but at the same time I'm kind of sacrificing like work, as in, let's say, I think for the average university student, if you have that much free time, chances are you're probably like working in like, I don't know, like a part-time job, for example. So I think it's that thought that still bothers me, in that, every day I'm still using my, maybe not every day, but as in, most of the time when I'm using like my parents' like hard-earned money on, be it food, clothes, whatever, I still feel bad, right? As in, it's not my own money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's fair. It's true. And I think that maybe, I don't know about everybody, for me, university has been really this period, this transition, that I realize that now's the time. I got to start getting ready to be able to provide for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're both full-time working. They're taking care of themselves. They're still taking care of me. But I think I need to start considering that, because if you just push it off and you always see your parents as your providers and protectors, they're getting older. They're getting older. You're in more of a prime state, mental state, physical state. You have the most energy in the world. University students, this is when your energy is at its peak. And yes, school will fucking kick your ass and make sure to take as much of that energy as possible.
School is temporary. Then you have like, I don't know, like 40 years to find a job.
Exactly,
to work,
exactly.
For example.
So at this age, I think that it is really important to start understanding that you need to be that take that role on that your parents did for you. You need to start taking that role on for them.
Exactly.
Anyways, it's been a good talk.
Yeah.
It's been a good
It's been quite a
episode.
while, huh?
Absolutely. What's left for you this year? What can we expect of Yam Lau?
Oh man. It's funny because I think I injured my foot like again like last week, so I probably won't be running for like maybe a few weeks.
Fair.
Because the thing is, I'm really scared that it's gonna be another stress fracture.
Yeah.
Which I hope not. I mean, there's probably like a few races that I'll go to. So there's one in December where it's like a 10K so it's hosted by Black Toe, which is like a pretty popular like run club in Toronto at the very least. Then yeah, I guess probably be playing like the ensembles I'm currently in. So essentially, I'm in like 170 orchestra, one string ensemble, which I'm running. And I also have a string quartet, so that's really fun to play in for the most part. So yeah, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
Very
think that's
cool.
about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Yam Lau, musician, chemist, and runner. The trifecta there. Thank you for watching. That's the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic, every Sunday. Make sure to follow on Instagram and TikTok at Voices of Vic. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this with UofT. They're missing out on some great interviews. Some great interviews if they're not watching these. And yeah, we will see you next Sunday. Peace out.